Welcome back to Mellow Labs. On today's episode, we are restoring this 23-year-old RC car, brought to you by Patreon. Speaking of Patreon, all of my Patreon supporters will have a sponsorship sticker on this car. It can be something as easy as just your username, or you can send me your logo like Dan did. Sign up on Patreon if you want to be a part of it. To start off with, let's go over my history with this car because I technically didn't own it for 23 years. This one specifically comes from a very nice eBay seller in Virginia, but I did have this exact car many years prior. Originally, it was given to me by a family friend, and it was one of the few things I took with me when my family moved from Poland to England in 2004. And I had it for a fair few years after that, but at some point it got disposed of, along with my Lego Technics, my Meccano. Thanks, ma'am. I'm not salty at all. Definitely not the reason I gave up on engineering and moved to art. But it's okay, because now I can draw things good. Trauma aside, I've been looking to get one of these for a fair few years, but I've never quite had enough courage to pull the plug. At the start of 2023, my partner just went and got me one herself, and I cannot be more grateful. I'm so happy to have it back. By the way, my partner got this for me knowing that I was going to completely gut the electronics and replace them. Can we just applaud the amount of trust she has in me? When I first got it, I gave it a very deep clean. I took it all apart, I laid it out, cleaned all of the components. On the inside was mostly mud and some good old Virginia grass. The car did work when I got it, but they couldn't send me the battery because of international shipping issues, so I ended up having to jerry-rig a wire to my desktop power supply, and it worked fine, but they were 23-year-old electronics, and believe it or not, RC electronics have moved on a lot in the last 23 years. This car, as far as I can tell, was sold by Radio Shack in America. I don't know how the hell it found its way to Poland. Radio Shack has archives of all of their catalogs from previous years, and I found this car in the year 2000 catalog. What I absolutely love is that they say the remote has 7 functions, so I'd like to count them with you today. There's left and right, there's backwards, forwards, turbo. Those are the 5 controls to control the car. The other 2 is on and off. I'm not with you. On and off is a notable feature. They didn't have an on and off switch on the controller. You just take out the battery. That is absolute peak of advertising BS. Moving on, I removed all of the original stickers from the body because I already knew I was going to replace them. It was then that the yellowing plastic became very apparent, so I decided to try removing the yellowing plastic. Not something I've ever done before. It's surprisingly easy. All you really need is hydrogen peroxide, a UV lamp, and a box to put it in. You need 12% hydrogen peroxide. You can pretty much get it at any pharmacy, but because the liquid hydrogen peroxide just runs off the car, I actually ended up using hair bleach, which is kind of a creamier consistency. By the way, if you're using hydrogen peroxide, wear gloves, because I didn't, and I accidentally bleached my skin. So don't do what I did because I'm stupid. Wear gloves. I spread it all over the car. I wrapped it in cling film to stop it evaporating. Then I grabbed the box. I put tin foil on the inside of it to make it all reflective and stuff. And then I put the car in there with the UV light on top and just left it for 24 hours. In hindsight, I probably should have left it for longer. Some people recommend a few days, but it ended up working out fine for me. If you look very closely, you can still kind of see a faint outline of the sticker that was there before, but it's honestly good enough for my first go. With the body being taken care of, I could focus on the electronics. Now, for the people on the r-rc car Reddit, you guys are a very dedicated bunch, and I understand I could have done this much better and made it much faster, but I didn't. I'm using the original motors and gearbox that was in this car because they work fine. It's just the electronics and the steering that I mainly had a problem with. The steering can only do fully left or fully right. There is no in between. Exactly the same with the power. It is either fast, faster, backwards. No in between. Took out the original motor driver and receiver. By the way, soldering 23-year-old electronics, I'm pretty sure it was just the leaded solder. Man, it just brought back so many memories of taking apart all electronics. hashtag bring back leaded solder. To replace the electronics, I got a controller with an RC receiver and a cheap motor driver, both of which much better than what was in here before. For the steering, I replaced the original assembly with a servo motor. It's a little more jank than I wanted, but the servo's propped up on a piece of wood because it wasn't quite high enough. And then for the actual steering part, I took the original piece that holds the steering rods in place and I super glued it to the servo mount, and it works fine. Like, it works great. To finish it off, I needed to cut out a little bit of plastic to make space for the LiPo battery. Luckily, the current electronics are so much smaller than the original that there was actually enough space to put a big pokey LiPo battery in there. And that was it for all the electronics. I did really consider putting in little LEDs in the headlights, but they didn't look right, and to make them look good, I'd have to like remove this, remove the plastic behind there. Just a whole lot of work that I don't think is worth it. Look, I even managed to keep the original battery compartment. The battery just fits in there. I'm actually quite proud of myself for that one. Then came time to remove the body from the hydrogen peroxide bath. So I removed the body parts out of the box and put them in the shower, and then put on some gloves. That sounds pretty bad out of context. And then I washed them with like soap and water, just a lot of rinsing, get all of the hydrogen peroxide off. You don't want that anywhere near the face, mouth, eyes, the skin. Just let it all go down the drain. I hope you can put hydrogen peroxide down the drain. I'm sure it's fine. Put it all back together and it looked really good. If I was really nitpicky, I would have stripped all of the paint off and just completely repainted the whole thing, because the original paint job on this, you can tell it's cheap. I'll put it that way. But at this point, it's just part of the charm. I freaking love this thing. If you want to have a sponsorship sticker on this car, support me on Patreon. I'd very much appreciate it. To finish this off, I'm gonna go out to the park, get some cool montage footage of this thing racing around. Cut to that. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share the video. If you know a friend that likes RC cars or old electronics or funny videos, share it with them. It helps me a lot. Till next time, toodaloo! Ow! I didn't mean to drop, but I dropped. Life is pain.